Hello guys, I'm Combo Movie from Productions. So if you stayed with the channel for a little bit at least, you know that I like doing ranking videos, and also as a reason I've tried doing different things and experimenting different ideas for videos. So today I thought it'd be fun to do an idea I've thought of doing for a while, and now it seems like a good time to do it. With the summer season wrapping up, there isn't a whole lot of big franchise films coming out for the rest of the year, and I'm trying to catch up on a bunch of movies and franchises I haven't seen yet in between making videos. So a good middle ground I thought of was to do rankings of franchises I want to talk about on the channel that don't have any new installments coming out for the foreseeable future, by you guys suggesting what franchises I should rank and discuss. And if you guys like it, I'll do more episodes, but for this pilot episode, I'm going to take 3 suggestions from 3 different videos. The first one is a suggestion from my 100 sub special that I should have done a long time ago, but I'm finally getting to it. So, what's the first film series I'm going to rank? Well, the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series, so let's not waste any more time and get into it. Coming in last place, number 4 is Diary of a Wimpy Kid: The Long Haul. This is the most recent entry in the series, being a little over 2 years old as the time of this recording, and also being the only film in the series to have an entirely new cast acting as a reboot. And it's abysmal. This is a really bad film, from the lazy writing and unfunny, most of the time cringy humor, the terrible acting, and nobody outshines or even comes close to the original cast, which weren't even the best actors in the world. The story is contrived and just a generic road trip movie with tons of side plots and villains that don't need to be here, and lacks any of the heart of the other films due to the characters being so unlikable and getting little development. It's just a dumb kids movie that goes by fast and is completely forgettable other than the frustration you have while watching it. I can't believe I actually watched this in theaters. Anyways, don't watch it at any cost. Hashtag not my Roderick. At number 3 is Diary of a Wimpy Kid: Dog Days. Dog Days is the final installment of the OG Wimpy Kid trilogy, and although it's the weakest, it's a massive step up from The Long Haul and is a decent conclusion to the trilogy. It has fun moments of Greg and Riley having fun during the summer, and I really like what they did with Greg and his dad. Along with that, there are some fun moments from the rest of the cast. The romance between Greg and Holly is charming enough, and Roderick has some stand-up moments inside the film. The big issues I have with the film that holding it back is that the story isn't that good and goes all over the place, from Greg's job to his family to Holly to Rowley. And it just goes on and on with how many side plots are in this movie, just for the sake of a gag. And there are some jokes that just don't land. As a whole, it's not as entertaining, interesting, or charming as the other 2 films on this list, but I would still recommend it overall. And number 2 is Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The film that started off the series is still one of the best in my opinion. The film does a good job at introducing us to Greg's world and how unfair it is at many points throughout, and having a lot of fun to play around with Greg's over-exaggeration of things. For example, the cheese touch, which is still an iconic scene to this day. The film is definitely a lot of fun and has many good moments throughout, carried by good acting and decent writing. The things holding it back are pretty much the same things I talked about previously. Some jokes don't work, the film can get unfocused at points, and that causes the pacing to drag. And since this was the first movie these actors played these roles in, they aren't as good as they were in the sequels, but as a whole, I still like it. But coming in first place, number 1 is Diary of a Wimpy Kid: Roderick Rules. This film captures the essence of the book series the most in my opinion, and it's the most entertaining film of the series, along with it telling the best story about these 2 brothers learning a lot about each other and respecting each other and acting like goofballs when they're at it. It's not a super deep story, but it has a good heart to it, along with bringing the usual laughs and tomfoolery you expect from these movies, and having many memorable scenes from the opening scene of the roller skating ring, the scene at the gas station with the fake vomit, the party scene, etc. It's just a very fun movie that I still enjoy to this day. Yes, it does suffer from the same problems the other films on this list suffer from, but in the least amount in my opinion. This is an example of how to do a comedy sequel right. Expand on the first one while also being funnier as well. Overall, it's a really solid film. So that's the Wimpy Kid series. The next series is a lot bigger and is in a completely different genre, the horror genre, and tackling one of the biggest horror franchises of all time, the Nightmare on Elm Street series, a request I was given back a few months ago on my Ant-Man video. So let's not waste any more time and get into it before Freddy comes for you. Coming in last place, number 9 is 2010 Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Another lazy horror remake that lacks anything that made the original great and replaces it with cheap jump scares, crappy makeup, bad acting, a gloomy and at times hard to see look to it, and just being a frustratingly boring experience that has nothing new to bring to the table, and it's just trying to be a modern day cash grab of the original. But it has a few good scenes explaining Freddy Krueger's backstory and flashbacks, some good kills, and Jackie Earle Haley is a good Freddy Krueger minus the piece of face makeup, and if he didn't try to sound like Christian Bale's Batman so much. It's a terrible remake overall, and don't watch it, and it's probably the main reason why this series has been dead for nearly a decade. And number 8 is Nightmare on Elm Street 5: The Dream Child. The Dream Child is easily my least favorite sequel of the series. This is where the series took a nosedive for a bit and went really goofy. The story has an interesting concept with Freddy Krueger attacking Alice, who is the protagonist of the previous film, through her fetus, who's constantly sleeping, but it just becomes a bunch of wacky scenes that don't lack any scares and filled with unlikable characters, and the characters that are likable they get killed off early on. And by the end, it's so confusing you don't know what's going on. And just isn't that investing from a story standpoint, and there are barely any kills in this film also. Overall, it's a misfire with only a few good moments here and there. At number 7 is A Nightmare on Elm Street 2: Freddy's Revenge. The first sequel to the series is one of the worst in my opinion. The sequel really isn't that scary to the film, having some tonal issues of not knowing if it wants to be scary like the first film or goofier like the subsequent sequels. Along with the main characters not being that likable and quite annoying, Freddy somehow is able to come out of the real world whenever it's necessary for the plot. The film can drag at points that has many unintentionally funny moments, especially how Freddy's killed off. What makes it better than the previous films on this list is that Robert Englund gives one of his best performances of Freddy Krueger in this movie and can actually be quite menacing. There's some good creepy imagery and kills, especially the party scene, the scene where Freddy peels back his scalp, the scene where Freddy comes out of the guy's chest, etc. It's not good, but at the same time, it's not the worst sequel in the series. At number 6 is Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. The supposed final film of the series is not a good film in my opinion, but it knows what it is and embraces it to the goofiest possible extent. It moves by at a quick pace and doesn't try to waste any time getting into the kills. It has an interesting concept of every kid in Springwood being killed by Freddy Krueger apart from one teenager, who gets amnesia and a few people go to Elm Street to defeat Freddy. Robert Englund is a blast in this movie and gets to act very over the top and has some goofy kills as well. What makes it a bad film in my opinion is that there isn't much beyond that. The characters are as flat as paper and the kills don't happen too often, and the film keeps changing direction so much it's hard to see where the film is going, and by the end it doesn't feel like a final chapter. But it still delivers enough that if you're a big fan of the series I would recommend it. At number 5 is Nightmare on Elm Street 4: The Dream Master. The Dream Master is the first recommendable film in this list in my opinion. The Dream Master provides a lot of cool new concepts into the mix, as well as providing some of the best kills in the series, from the waterbed, the classroom scene, the dream sequence of the car pileup, and more. It has a decent story with a likable protagonist in Alice and her boyfriend, along with Robert Englund being as good as ever as Freddy Krueger, and overall it's a decent sequel. But what holds back is that I don't like that they killed off all the survivors from Elm Street 3 in the start. The film's supporting characters aren't as interesting as the ones from Part 3, and that causes the film to feel boring at times and is really tense or scary. But I still had an okay time with it overall. At number 4 is Freddy vs. Jason. Freddy vs. Jason is a dumb, fun movie that executes a fun concept that all horror fans wanted to see before this film came out, and the scenes featuring the two horror icons is always a standout and the best parts of the movie, along with it moving at a fast pace, having some fun kills, cool imagery, and overall being an entertaining ride. What holds back is that the film does have some missteps, like all the characters are as bland as paper, and they're just there to get to the action, which doesn't happen until a while into the film. The film looks way too saturated. Some retcons like Jason being afraid of water was stupid, and the fact that the director kicked out Kane Hodder, who at that point had played Jason in the previous 4 films in the Friday the 13th series, from reprising the role in this movie was unfair, and as a whole could have done a lot more, but it still does the concept right in my opinion. At number 3 is New Nightmare. Wes Craven's true sequel to the original film, setting in the real world where Freddy Krueger comes to get Heather Langenkamp, who played Nancy in the first Nightmare on Elm Street, and her kid, was a very neat idea and for the most part succeeds. What this film does best is it makes Freddy scary again. After basically turning into a joke after the original film, this movie makes Freddy menacing to do his size and new look along with the creative imagery and gory kills. And the acting is also strong along with the writing and direction. That really is a message about how the series has become and trying to bring it back to basics and bringing many moments from the first film to bite the main character back. The only problem holding the film back for me was some silly concepts like the whole plush dinosaur protecting the kid thing. There could have been some trimming of some unnecessary scenes, and I wish the ending was better, but I think it's one of the best sequels of the series. At number 2 is Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors. This is easily my favorite sequel to the series, having the perfect balance between horror, fun, and also some comedic elements as well, but it's first and foremost a horror film. The film is a direct sequel to the first film, and it brings back the main characters of that film, along with providing a slew of new likable characters into the mix, along with providing some of the best kills and one-liners from Freddy in the series. It's just a blast from beginning to end. The only problems I have with it are some outdated effects, and I wish certain characters got more screen time, but overall it's a great sequel. But coming in first place, number 1 is the original 1984 Nightmare on Elm Street. This is not only the best of the series and one of the best horror films ever made, but one of my favorite films of all time. This is a true horror film that will scare you to the bone. Freddy Krueger is an absolute menace in this movie, and is scarier than he's ever been, along with the film capturing the true horror of the concept of not being able to sleep or you will get killed off, and capturing claustrophobia better than any other film in the series, making the characters feel trapped, and the film makes the first few kills, which are so great by the way, with character development that builds the world and these people to make them more likable and root for them to get out of this terrifying situation. The film is filled with great imagery, whether you're talking about the bathtub scene, the tongue coming out of the phone, the blood spewing from the bed, and so much more, and some great dialogue from Freddy Krueger, and Robert Englund really get the performance that defined his career. It's a fantastic film and proves that sometimes you can't beat the original in a franchise. And that's the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Last but not least, we got the smallest of the bunch with only 3 installments and another horror series that got us an idea from a commentary on my Tarantino ranking video, the From Dusk Till Dawn series. So let's finish out this video on a bang. Coming in last place, number 3 is From Dusk Till Dawn 3: The Hangman's Daughter. The Hangman's Daughter is a cheap, poorly written prequel that is boring throughout and not scary, that doesn't add much new to the From Dusk Till Dawn mythos, along with none of the characters being interesting, apart from Danny Trejo, and the kills aren't that good either. It's just a bad sequel altogether that should have never been made. Speaking of never should have been made, at number 2 is From Dusk Till Dawn 2: Texas Blood Money. This is stuff from the first film and doesn't repeat the first film, but other than that and a few good moments and kills, this movie is just what you expect for a direct-to-video horror sequel. It feels nothing like the first film, with unlikable hillbillies as the main characters. The plot goes all over the place, the effects, especially when the opening scene with Bruce Campbell in the elevator, yes he's in this movie, are quite fake. And as a whole, like the third film, it's a boring sequel that isn't exciting nor fun nor scary in my opinion. But coming in first place, number 1 is From Dusk Till Dawn. A gigantic step up from the sequels, this is one of my favorite films of all time. It may not be a masterpiece or thought-provoking, but man, it's a hell of a fun ride from beginning to end. George Clooney is one of my favorite performances in the movie, as a slick gangster trying to make it through the night with his psychotic brother played by Quentin Tarantino, who wrote the film, as they take on their family hostage. All the main characters are given development and the right amount of setup to when the shit hits the fan. It's a non-stop thrill ride with some amazing practical effects, a great soundtrack, many standout moments from the dialogue, kills, cinematography, etc. It all works from beginning to end, and it's one of those horror movies I watch every Halloween. So that's the video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe to my content, and if you want more episodes of this series, comment what film franchise you want me to rank in the comments. Just make sure I haven't done it before, and also make sure there's not an installment coming out in the near future, because I'll probably cover it eventually. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm Combo Movie Film Productions, signing out.